Hey there guys, what's up? What's going on? It's Auto About Mike 18 here with another TV episode review. And guys, it is Monday night. You guys know the drill. You guys know what I review and post video about every single Monday night since the season started back in March. And that is Bates Motel. That's right guys, I just finished watching the newest episode and here I am going to give you my thoughts in this review on the episode. Only one more of these guys, and what I mean by that is there is only one more episode of the season, which is the season finale, which airs next Monday night, and the season's over. I know a lot of you were shocked, and as was I. The season felt like it went by way too quickly. A lot of people were mentioning that on Facebook and Twitter. It really did. I mean, it's 10 episodes, which isn't that short, but it went by really fast. I know it started in mid-March, just the time flew by. But anyway, real quick, guys, before I get into the actual discussion of the episode tonight, just want if you guys could do me a quick favor. And if you haven't checked out my my Joe movie review starring Nicolas Cage and my Enemy movie review starring Jake Gyllenhaal, both those reviews are on my channel, and I just really appreciate if you guys would check them out, give them support. Just wanted to promote those two reviews for two good movies. But anyway, guys, getting into Bates Motel tonight. I don't know about you, but with the way they ended last week's episode, I was really looking forward to tonight's episode. Oh, I forgot. Tonight's episode was Season 2, Episode 9, The Box. Very fitting title. And in case you guys didn't know this, spoiler heavy, so if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen the episode yet, you guys know the drill. I'm going to spoil the whole thing. So I'm going to discuss the whole episode, and I had high hopes for tonight's episode, and as did many of you, and I think a lot of you, as did I, know that, a lot of us knew that tonight's episode they were going to go big. They were going to go bigger because we know that they're building up this conflict with this drug war. They're building up this storyline with Norman and Blair Watson and Norma getting involved in all of that. They're building all of that up, so you know they're going to go out with a bang with this season to lead us into Season 3 because they've confirmed the Season 3 already. So that's why I, like many of you, was really looking forward to tonight's episode, and I'm looking forward to next week's episode as well. And with how great last week's episode was, I think my expectations were met because I really enjoyed tonight's episode. Without a doubt, one of the better episodes of the season so far. We still have the finale. I'm going to make predictions for the finale, a few towards the end of the video. But anyway, getting into the actual, the story of tonight's episode, and I'm going to discuss most of the scenes. Again, it was broken down by storylines, but this was one of those episodes where we really don't see a whole lot of Norman. I know that's odd because normally Norman is our main character, so we usually see him for a good majority of the show. But because of what happens to him in this episode, because he's taken to this box and thrown in there, we only get a few scenes of him. Apart from two crucial scenes, we only get a few scenes of him laying down in the box, rain falling on him. You get shots of his dirty face, and he's just like talking to himself the whole time, which is creepy and awesome at the same time to see that happen. But like I said, not a whole lot of Norman tonight. But anyway, as I said, there's a reason for that. But our main storylines, again, Norman's was more of a subplot tonight. I would say Norma would probably have the main storyline tonight, and then Dylan's storyline, of course, with this whole thing with this drug war and Nick Ford and Zane, which is actually getting really good. I know a lot of you may have felt differently about that, but in the beginning, especially I did. In the beginning of this season, I could not give a crap. I could give zero shits about the whole thing with the drug war. It was really dragging on. It was starting to piss me off, actually. But about 2 episodes ago, the storyline started to get good, and I was really impressed with that. So, anyway, tonight's episode, I think I'll start off with Norma's storyline first, then I'll go Dylan, then I'll go Norman. That's just the simplest way. So Norma wakes up from the she comes home. She comes home from her night out with George. Let's just put it that way. And she finds Norman is not there. So she's frantically looking all over the place. She can't find him. She gets a call on her phone, and it's Nick Ford. Tells her that they have captured Norman, and she has to talk to Dylan to tell him, listen, Dylan, you got to do what what we agreed on. What Dylan and Nick Ford agreed on in the previous episode, last week's episode, was that Dylan needs to kill Zane, and all of this drug war is going to be over. So that's what Nick Ford told Dylan to do, and that's what Nick Ford wants done. That is why they captured Norman. So Norman right now is a hostage, and they're using Norman so Dylan can get this job done for Nick Ford. And Nick Ford tells Norma, "Listen, if you do not tell Dylan this, and if Dylan doesn't do what he's supposed to do, I'm going to kill Norman." So Norma obviously is freaking out here. She immediately goes to Dylan. Now Dylan's getting involved in all of this. But anyway, going back with Norma. She goes out. She lives the day, frantically looking for him, calling Norman on his cell phone, because that's what a good Norman does. That's Norma for you, okay? And after she talks to Dylan about it, Dylan's obviously going to look into this. He realizes, because Dylan was left with that big decision of whether or not he should kill Zane in the end of last week's episode. Even Zane's own sister Jody, the boss of the whole weed business, said, "Listen, if you got to do it, do it." So Dylan's been struggling with, he didn't know what the hell to do. He had no clue what to do, what side to take. And now that Norman is captured, and they're possibly going to kill him if Dylan doesn't do what Nick Ford wants, Dylan's got to reconsider this. So that's where Dylan comes into play. But I'll get into Dylan's storyline later. But Norma, on the other hand, meets Sheriff Romero. Comes up to Norma, and Romero's running around like a chicken without his head, looking for Norman, and he's trying to get a polygraph test set up for Norman, kind of like, off the books, off the records, without anyone really knowing, because he's starting to investigate this thing with Blair Watson. He knows that they found that semen sample inside of Blair Watson, Miss Watson, and it's Norman's. So Romero knows this, and he wants to get to the bottom of it. He wants those answers, and he's looking frantically for Norman, and Norma lies to Romero, telling him, "Listen, Norman is upstairs. He's got the flu, or he's got a fever rather, and I'll let you talk to him when he's feeling better." So Romero leaves, but before he does leave, he tells Norma everything. And when I mean everything, he tells her the news that Romero has gotten, and that is that Norman's semen was found inside of Miss Watson, which obviously means they slept together. Now, as of that point, that does not mean that he killed her. Most likely he did, but that does not mean that he killed her. But Norma obviously is freaked out. She even loses her balance for a second, and Romero has to grab her shoulder to stop her from falling over. That was kind of funny. But we all knew that was going to happen. We all knew Norma was going to react in that way because we all knew she was going to find out about that, obviously. And something like that, having something like that happen to her, is going to crush her. To have Norman go off with an older woman, no less, and sleep with her behind her back, forget about it. That does not sit well with Norma, okay? Let's just put it that way. So Norma now has this new information, and Norman's still missing. So basically, she goes throughout the whole day without Norman, calling himself, and like I said, and she meets George comes over, and let me talk about George for a second, all right? That whole George, played by Michael Vartan, the guy she slept with last episode, but her boyfriend, the guy she's been dating, the guy she's been seeing, he had no purpose in this season whatsoever. Yes, he was the love interest for Norma, but honestly, did she really need a love interest? Yes, I understand that the two of them, that she went to go over to his house right when Norman was captured, so that was convenient. Yes, that's why they needed George for really that scene only. He was not necessary throughout this whole season, okay? And I'm saying this now because he's not going to be in the finale. With the fight that they had, the argument they had, and the way she blew him off like that, he's not coming back in the finale. I'll highly doubt if we ever see him back on this show. I could be wrong, but that's my early prediction. He had no purpose on the show whatsoever. So Norma's boyfriend, it did nothing for me and did nothing for this show. So I just wanted to make that known. But anyway, so Norma goes through a whole night not knowing where Norman is, and she wakes up the next morning to Romero banging on the door, wanting to know where Norman is. and like he said, he would come back, and Norma answers the door, tells Romero the whole truth this time. She tells him Norman is not upstairs. He was taken by Nick Ford, and he's being held captive until Dylan carries out on killing Zane. And Nick Ford obviously told Norma, listen, do not tell Romero about this. You can't say anything about it. And she had to tell Romero, because Romero was on to her. He barged into the house. He was looking for Norman because he's trying to get deeper into this thing with Miss Watson. So Romero runs off. I guess he's going to go after Nick Ford and Norman. But something happens to Nick Ford tonight, which I'm going to get into. So anyway, that was Norma's storyline for the episode. Now we're going to get into Dylan's. Dylan's was very interesting tonight. I would say probably the most tense out of all of them. Out of his, Norma's, and Norman's storylines. Dylan's was without a doubt the most entertaining, the most intense. Like I said, I'm really into this drug war thing. So Dylan now has this information that Norman's been captured, and now he knows, alright, I gotta go take out Zane. So he goes over to Zane. Zane is staying in a safe house, and he's got like 3 security guards armed with weapons, and they're guarding the safe house, and Dylan comes over with groceries, and he's got his gun, and he's prepared to kill Dylan. This was kind of funny. And he sees the guards, and he's like, oh shit. And he cannot take out Zane because Zane is being guarded by these armed men. And he's out in the middle of nowhere in the safe house. And I was watching this with my brother, and he brought up a good question. He's like, why didn't Nick Ford just go after or have his men capture Zane in the first place? Zane is hiding in a safe house. Zane can't be found. He's MIA at this point. And Dylan goes over to him, and the reason how he found Zane, he went to Jody and talked to her, and he goes over to Zane, and he brings the groceries, all right, and Zane is grateful, and he's like, well, and then he makes Dylan, him and his men make Dylan hand over his weapon and all that crap, and they strip search him, and they cuff him, they pat him down, I meant to say, not strip search him, and Dylan cannot take out Zane, obviously, because they have his gun. Can't do it. So Dylan's next best move is to go over to Nick Ford and be like, hey, Nick Ford, I cannot take out Zane unless I want to get myself killed. He is being heavily guarded well, not heavily guarded, but he's being guarded in the safe house. There's no way I'm going to take him out. What the hell do you want me to do about this? So that's exactly what he does. The next morning, he goes over to Nick Ford's, and he tells Nick Ford, listen, I can't take him out. He's in a safe house. What do you want from me? So Nick Ford's like, are you suggesting that we, raid the safe house? We raid it and with a gunfight, and we take Zane out and all of his men in a gun battle. And Dylan's like, you know what? That's really the only way I see this happening. The only way we can do this. The only way you can take out Zane. And Nick Ford's not happy about this. He wanted Zane dead. That's what he was looking forward to. He was going to release Norman as soon as he got confirmation that Zane was killed by Dylan. But this obviously upsets Nick Ford, so he pulls out a gun out of his and Dylan can't even kill Nick Ford to go back on, to stick with his business and on Jody and Zane's side and save Zane's life in the end. Because he goes to Nick Ford's house, and then they pat him down and take his gun. So Dylan had a bad day. He had no chance to take anyone out, which is unfortunate. But anyway, Dylan, he didn't need a gun, because what he does as Nick Ford pulls out his gun and gets Dylan out of the brings him out of the room that they're in. The two of them struggle. They get in a fight, and they're tussling around on the floor. And Dylan takes one of those fire poker things, and I don't know if he cut what's his face, Nick Ford's face, or was it sort of close to his neck? I forget. But he made this, I guess, apparently lethal laceration around near his face, around his mouth, right here. And Nick Ford falls down, and at this point, I'm watching this, and I'm like, oh no, don't kill him, because there was something that Nick Ford was involved in that I'm going to get into. It involves Norman. I'll get into that. And I didn't want Nick Ford to die. I'll tell you why. And apparently he does. because he stops breathing and he lays there motionless, and Dylan is asking, "Where's Norman? Where's Norman?" And he leaves Nick Ford's building, his house or whatever, I guess, off to look for Norman. And yeah, so apparently Nick Ford is dead. Okay, now what's going to happen with Zane? I don't know. I was really surprised that if he is dead, I think he is, but I was really surprised that they killed him off in this episode. I thought they were going to wait for the finale, but nope. So that was nice to see. Nick Ford is gone, and yes, he has been the antagonist the whole season. And they built upon his character. They introduced him, and it seemed like at first he was just helping Norma, but it turns out he was really in control of the rival drug business. And then when Zane goes off and goes on his killing spree of the warehouse, they raid the warehouse. That's when Nick Ford's like, nope, screw this. It's time to get back at this rival business, at Dylan's business. So Nick Ford was the antagonist of the season, and now he is dead. Not the strongest antagonist, but not a bad one, so I'll take it. Not too terrifying, though. But anyway, Norman's storyline. Norman was honestly the least, in this episode, the least out of everyone. He's basically just in the box the whole time. That's honestly what he is. Two important things, however, happened while he was in the box. Actually, three. Scratch that. Three important things. One of them you guys probably forgot about. Two of them are important. While he's in the box, you know, he's all dirty. He's tied up. His hands are taped. I don't know why they didn't duct tape his mouth, though, because there's a hole in the box. Like, anyone could walk through the woods. Like, you know, some hikers are on a stroll, and you know, they hear Norman screaming. Yeah, they're going to go run over there and see what's going on. So, no, they did not duct tape his mouth, obviously, because they couldn't, because he had to talk in a few scenes. So that's why they didn't. But anyway, They go to give Norman food and water. They give him a sandwich and water, and that's when Norman tries to make his getaway, which was a complete fail. Norman failed. I'm sorry, Norman. Don't try to escape. You failed. And they tackle him down on the ground, and the necklace and the article clipping relating to Miss Watson fall out of his pocket. At this part, I was like, oh crap, that's bad. You have Nick Ford's guys, Nick Ford being the father of Miss Watson, who are keeping Norman in this box, and you have Miss Watson's necklace fall out of fall out of Norman's pocket. The man that they've just captured, the kid they just captured, they have their boss's daughter's necklace now. So as soon as I saw that happen, I'm like, oh, they're going to take it to Nick Ford, and that's exactly what they do. And Nick Ford is, you know, holding the necklace, and you could tell he's pissed. You could tell that he's not happy with this, because obviously they tell him Norman had this. We don't know why, so they gave it to him. And right when I think Nick Ford would have gone over to confront Norman, or at least talk to him about it, that's when Dylan came in and killed Nick Ford. So now that whole thing with the necklace is lost now. And I was honestly a little upset about that. That's why I didn't want Nick Ford to die right away. I honestly wanted to see him confront Norman and talk to him about the experience. But you know, to try to figure out what really happened to Miss Watson. However, we do find out what happened to Miss Watson in the very last scene of the episode. Before that, however, while Norman's in the box, he starts having visions of Norma. Okay, and one of the visions, I wrote it down. Norman sees Norma telling her she's always inside of him. Every mother is always inside of their kids. That line, I love that line. Okay. I'm always inside of you, alright? And that so fits the original Psycho, and I know they're going down that route, and I cannot wait to see them go further. And I think that's where they're going in the finale next week. I honestly think they're going to further go into the original Psycho storyline, so, which means it's almost time for Norma to... yeah, that means she's going to die eventually. And Norman's going to take over the whole town. I don't know how any of that is going to happen in the show. How are they going to make all of that happen? But I love that line, I'm always inside of you, because of that split, that personality disorder he's always had, where he's acted like himself, and he's acted like his mother. He's even inhibited his own mother's voice, you know, in the original Psycho. So that was great. I love that line. But anyway, the last scene in the episode was arguably the most impressing, the most satisfying, let's just say that much. We've waited like 8 episodes to find out what really happened to Miss Watson, and we finally do. Norman is down in the box late at night, and he finally sees what happened that night. As you all know, he's been having those blackouts, and that's what's been keeping him from realizing what he's been doing while he's been having these blackouts. But he remembers the night, and apparently Miss Watson, she let him on with the mirror and everything when she was changing and all that. And Norman did see Norma right before, right when Miss Watson was trying to provoke Norman to sleep with her. And Norma told him, you know what to do, Norman. Remember that whole speech? I'm not going to get into it. You guys know what I'm talking about. And Norman did sleep with her. We see the two of them. We see like a very blurred image of, through Norman's perspective of him having sex with Miss Watson. Very creepy and interesting scene to watch. I'm sorry, but Keegan Connor Tracy, whoever played Miss Watson, she's hot, all right. And that dress she was wearing, that lingerie she was wearing in that scene, wow. But anyway, moving on, and the two of them are literally in the middle of sex, and that's when he pulls out the knife, and he hears Norma say, you know what you have to do, Norman, and that's when he slits her throat. So Norman did kill Miss Watson, and he did sleep with her. So he's guilty for that, obviously. Romero's eventually going to find that out because he's coming very close to Norman's trail. And I love the end of the episode. The shot just pans upward. The shot just moves upward, and it's starts to zoom out as we see the box, and it's moving up. And Norman just yells out because he realized he killed his own teacher. He finally realizes that's what we've all been waiting for. Thank goodness. Norman finally is aware of that, and I'm pretty sure we all saw that coming. I knew he killed her. I think we all knew it in the end of season 1 when we saw her dead body. I'm pretty sure we all assumed it was her. They gave hints that it might not have been Norman, but it was, obviously. So I'm really curious to see where they're going to go, guys. And that was the end of the episode. Really good episode, guys. Rating. I'm not going to go all the way 10. It's not a perfect episode. This isn't one of my favorite shows of all time. It's a show I enjoy watching, and it's gotten progressively good over the last few episodes. So I'm going to give tonight's episode a 9.5, actually. I really did like it, which means it's probably my favorite episode of the season so far. Really impressed with it. The tension was great. The confrontation, the final confrontation between Nick Ford and Dylan, and the scene between Dylan and Zane in the safe house was pretty good. Norma finally finding out all these things about Norman sleeping with Miss Watson. Norman finally realizing the truth about what he did that night. And I'm really curious to see where the show is going to go. So 9.5 out of 10. The score was great, as it always was on this show. The writing was really good tonight. The directing, really big fan of tonight's episode. Now, next week's episode. Now, the promo for next week's episode, I'm pretty sure that they're going to go out with a bang with this finale. I would assume another character is going to bite the dust. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Most likely not, because Nick Ford's dead. But we never know. But I think they're going to go out with a bang. And if they do, the promo was terrible. Okay, the promo for next week's episode really didn't look that. It looked predictable as hell, because the last scene of the promo is Norman holding a gun up to Norma's face. Alright, now, if they actually... Now, I know he's not going to shoot her, because they wouldn't show that in the promo, okay? So he's not going to shoot her there. She's going to make it out of Season 2. However, if they're doing Season 3, I don't think Norman's going to make it out of that personally. I think that they're going to start to wrap it up around there. But I think that scene is... I don't know about that scene. That's odd to me. You obviously know he's not going to do it. You know Norman gets out of the box. I'm very curious to see where Romero's going to go with all of this. What Dylan's going to do now, because Dylan's on the run. He just killed Nick Ford, and all of Nick Ford's henchmen know that Dylan killed him because Dylan came into the house. I'm curious if Zane is going to get involved in any of this. Is Dylan going to take out Zane? I'm really curious. There are a lot of burning questions, but I'm predicting that I think Zane is going to get it next week. I honestly do. I see him having no more purpose left. I think Dylan might take him out anyway. I really do. I really, really do. Maybe Zane is going to go after Dylan. Maybe he's going to think Dylan's going to kill him, and Dylan's going to maybe Dylan's going to go over to Zane's house, the safe house again, and it's going to give Zane the impression that Dylan wants to kill him, and Dylan's really going to kill him in defense. I don't know. But that's one prediction. Also, at some point, not anytime soon, but at some point, Romero's going to bite the dust. I don't know when, but soon. I doubt it's going to be in the finale. But the reason why I say that is because if they're really going to follow, if they're going to tie in Bates Motel to Psycho, Norman is going to have to be cleared of all of this, of killing Miss Watson, of everything. So Romero is on his tail. Romero knows about all of this. Romero's going to go at some point. I doubt it's going to be in the finale, but just keep that in mind, guys. Romero is not going to stay alive much longer in the show. I see no other way of him getting out of this situation with Norman. I don't see it happening. So with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. What did you guys think of the episode? Let me know down below. And of course, leave your predictions for the season 2 finale airing next Monday at 10. Down below in the comments. So thank you guys for watching. Bye.